I fell sick in a foreign country on a trip with my close friend, and instead of helping me get better, she decided she was sick of my existence and told me to go fend for myself. I, 22F, was originally on a 2-week vacation throughout Europe with 2 friends, one of whom I was very close to and had been for some years. I'll call her Natalie, 22F. The other girl, Jenny, 22F, I was not very close to, and she had plans to separate from us halfway through the trip, as she had tickets to a concert in another country. Natalie and I had agreed it was best, and safest, to stay together for the remainder of the trip. We booked hotels together, but they were only in Natalie's name as I paid her in cash. I'm now realizing this was a huge mistake. The day Jenny left, things went downhill fast. I became ill and have spent the last few days congested and coughing. Apparently, Natalie can't stand the sound of a sick person sleeping, so she continuously woke me up to tell me I was making noise all night the first night we were alone. This resulted in no sleep for either of us and awkward tension the whole next day. We barely spoke, wouldn't even sit next to each other on the trams, and generally felt uncomfortable. Natalie insisted I buy medicine so she could sleep better, so I obliged and bought some cough and congestion medicine. I had a weird reaction to it and it made me super dizzy, so I told her I was going back to our hotel to sleep it off. She didn't want to come with me because it was still early evening but decided to for whatever reason. When we got back, we didn't speak at all, and she made it pretty clear she didn't want to. She continued to wake me up throughout the night when I would start dozing off and say things like, "You're being gross, stop coughing, that's disgusting, yuck, so annoying." She mocked me when I would breathe too heavily. This morning, when I went to take a shower, she texted me from the other room to tell me I should stay back today and skip the 2 attractions we bought tickets for. When I told her I didn't want to lose my money and suggested we go separately because she's clearly annoyed with me, she said, "Yeah, I don't really feel like being around your sickness all day." Tensions blew up, and I told her I wanted to be alone today. We're obviously around each other too much and should take a break. She agreed and said I should try to get a different hotel when we get to our last destination. I told her maybe, with the way she'd been acting, I was considering it anyway, and she replied telling me to please do and that she'd even refund me for the last night here if I got out sooner. My biggest fear coming on this trip was being alone, but I literally cannot stay with this girl for the remaining 4 days. I feel like a leper, someone she looks at as disgusting or a burden. Natalie told me she could easily tell them it's just her staying at the hotel, so my name would be taken off, which made me so angry that I was shaking. I decided right then not to get totally screwed over and booked a last-minute hostel in our last destination, where I'll be staying starting tomorrow. Natalie is now saying I've ruined the trip and that she's losing money by me staying by myself. I'm freaking terrified, my family is freaking out, and I just spent the last 10 minutes crying in a foreign Burger King bathroom. I'm so desperate to go home that I was looking into buying an earlier flight date, but I can't afford it. My friendship is obviously over, and the rest of this trip is now going to be spent alone, with strangers, in a place where I can't speak the language. Help me stay sane and give me some tips on traveling alone. Update 1. So shortly after posting the original post, I got quite a few Redditors contacting me via PM. I had been sitting alone in Amsterdam, silently freaking out for about 2 hours before I posted to this sub, and honestly, it was the best decision I could have made. About an hour after leaving the hotel I shared with Natalie, I received a text from her asking me not to tell any of our friends back at home what happened with us because she didn't want added drama. I hadn't spoken to any of them, but I had let my mom and sister in on what happened and that I'd be staying by myself in a hostel for the remainder of the trip in case I got into any trouble. They were, of course, livid that I was going to be alone, but I asked them not to contact Natalie or anyone else other than me. After they calmed down, they agreed, and I felt a ton better. I ended up meeting with another Redditor from the thread, shout out to you /Montaran87, and he ended up showing me around some of the city. It was so relaxing, and he was super fun to be around. I actually almost forgot about Natalie for the day. And then Natalie sent me a picture of her and Jenny, our previous travel partner, who apparently was in the same city and wanted to meet up. Jenny never bothered to let me know that she was in our area or asked to see me, despite the 3 of us being together for the first half of the 2-week trip. They were in one of Amsterdam's coffee shops, one that I'd asked Natalie to go with me to see previously before our fallout, but she was never interested in going. I didn't reply. I didn't see Natalie for the rest of the night until Jenny left, and I went back to our hotel. The next morning, we were set to fly to our last destination, Copenhagen, and we had to fly together. It was awkward, especially when I had to explain to Natalie that yes, I was still splitting up from her when we got there and that it wasn't just a threat. Still, we kept it cordial so things didn't get worse than they already had. By the time we got to Copenhagen, I threw her a few hundred kroners, as her purse had been previously stolen and she had no money, and we went our separate ways. And it was amazing. My initial terror of 100 things going wrong faded away when I got to my hostel. I spent the evening in their bar, meeting new people, and enjoying my new freedom. I could be myself for the first time in weeks. It felt surreal. I slept peacefully with no angry Natalie interruptions and spent the following day exploring the city on my own terms. I even got to go into the Tivoli Gardens. Thank you so much to you/Docatron. If you're ever in California, I'll buy you around. On my second night there, I actually met with another Redditor for dinner and some drinks. You're seriously awesome, you/Governor. I love sharing our stories, and I wanted to be able to see everyone who PM'd me. I appreciated every single one of you and your offers, and if I had stayed a bit longer, I'd have taken you all up on meeting up. By far, the best times I had in my whole vacation around Europe were spent exploring on my own, taking my time to appreciate what I wanted to and not worrying about bothering somebody else when I slept. It was liberating, and I'd do it again the next chance I get. As for Natalie, we haven't spoken since we returned home, and I feel like keeping it that way. Sorry this wasn't a super juicy update, but I told people I'd update when I got back.